I let go of expectations and go with the flow. Instead of resisting situations I perceive as negative, I flow through them and out the other side. In the process, I become more clear about the quality of life I want, and I begin to attract those kinds of events to me. By going with the flow, I experience life as it is given to me and learn the lessons being offered. Even though I may not have realized I needed them, those lessons, in so doing, I am better able to create my own reality. And that's what we're hoping to do. Well, going with the flow, who has any thoughts or comments on that?
Well, your last line in that said, by going with flow, it helps me create my reality. And it's so converse to what we think. By controlling things, I create my reality. And it's saying, no, flow. And you can be moved instead of you moving yourself to your own determination, what you think you want. So it's beautiful that flow doesn't just take you all over the place. It takes you where spirit can take, where your own soul wants to take you.
Exactly. I mean, we don't know where our spirit wants to go necessarily. Sometimes it just things show up and opportunities show up, but they might show up as something that isn't good, or we think we judge. When Dean and I were first learning this principle back in probably, what was it?
It was 1732.
Yeah, back in the old days. When we lived in Downsville, New York, when we were still working in New York with the video group Ring Dance, we got evicted from our house. We had a maybe 5 or 6 people. It was a big old country farmhouse, and we were all ready for winter, and we had our wood in, and then we got evicted, and we're like, but we had just learned this principle, go with the flow. So we, instead of resisting it mightily, which we would naturally have done because we were frustrated, where are we going to go, and how are we going to, we just went, okay, well, I guess there's something better going on. And it was the first time, this is in the early 70s, the first time we actually applied this principle. And we just flowed, and we managed to move over to a really neat place in Woodstock, and our community, our little group was able to keep together for a while. And it just propelled us on our way. But I remember our neighbors at the time they were so surprised at how we were taking it. They were, why aren't you mad? Why aren't you defending yourself or something? Anyway, so that was our first experience with like having something happen that, dang, we didn't want that to happen, but we went, okay, I guess it's just, move along. So anyway, we've kind of used that all along, and boy, there's all kinds of things that come up in life, and you don't plan for them, and you may not like them, but they might be nudging you along.
I'm dealing with one, and and I actually took your advice, Dudley. Well, you didn't give me advice. You just told me a story.
Oh, what did I say?
Well, it's about my son. My son is 39, and he's an addict. He's a marijuana addict, and he lives in LA. He's a recording engineer, and he just has this really chaotic lifestyle. And he was just up to help me, which was really sweet, to move, but it was really challenging. And so I don't know if you gave me the advice or if that's what I came up with from what you were telling me, Dudley, but I decided to have a conversation with his core self or his higher self or whatever. And so it was good because I got to get really pissed off and, be really mad about him to his core self. And then I got the clear message that the timing for him was not up to me, but it was up to the core self. And that was really great. So I'm really trying to learn how to go with the flow.
We all are. Don't knock yourself for not being able to easily do it, because it's one of those things. Yeah.
It's tough because we actually have a really loving relationship. We have a good relationship. it's just hard for me to be actually physically with him in the same place. It's great, from long distance, with telephone calls and texts and stuff. It's just great, but that's the hard part, is actually being physically in the same space with him, because it is so chaotic. I want to love him unconditionally. I mean, I do. And I want to continue this very sweet, loving relationship that I have with him, again, without hurting him, somehow wanting to stand in my sovereignty and in my center without hurting him, because he's very, very sensitive, doesn't want to disappoint me. He's like, it's a great concern. So that's the challenge.
Well, you're working on it. That's the best you can do.
Yeah.
Don't judge yourself. Don't put any pressure on yourself to be make it happen a certain way. And believe me, there's a couple other people who've been in this conversation talking about their kids. we're all at that age where we're like, oh, we care so much about our children, and of course we do.
I have something to share, because I think, let's see, so my son is 42, almost 43. And also our relationship is very challenging. But what has happened that's been pretty phenomenal is that we've gotten to a point where we can go back to the first thing we discussed today, which is speaking clearly and communicating clearly and without judgment. And I don't know what else was in there, but we finally have gotten to that point, I think, where we can converse that way and accept each other's perspective on a situation that we may be struggling with. So that's been really helpful. And I'm with you. It's easier when there's a little physical distance between me and him, because I'm not really interested in his day-to-day life and everything that goes on hour by hour. I don't want to witness that. So it's evolving.
That's all it can do. We just take our perspective and any tools we have and techniques of dealing with it, and we just do our best without burning any bridges.
Yeah, communication.
Yeah,
communication's critical.
Yeah. And I know that what Francie was talking about, and I'm sure I've shared it with several others of you, but it's called changing your telepathic agreement with somebody. So basically, we all have a telepathic agreement. You think of anybody, particularly somebody who's close to you, and you immediately have a feeling, yay or nay, or are you in the middle of a conflict with them, or do you just adore them, or whatever. So you have a way you see people. And then what happens is, particularly if we see, say, our kids having an issue or a challenge, then every time we think of them, we think of that issue or challenge, and we kind of really make it a little bit more serious than it needs to be, or something like that. So it's like the technique is to plan on using it for several days, or forever even, but it's kind of bringing that person into your consciousness and having the conversation. And what she was talking about, when you want to get angry and you want to just say, you want to let it out, but you wouldn't really do this in person because it would burn bridges, most likely. You might feel better for a minute, but getting all mad at somebody isn't going to help. So the other thing is to start seeing them as, you kind of have that negative aspect. And then by the end of you're having a conversation with their spiritual self. Francie calls it the core self, and so your spiritual self is having a conversation with their spiritual self. And then you get it out and you're mad and you can feel all bad and all. But at the end of the conversation, you say, well, but I really see that you're trying, and I know we can get through this, and you're doing the best you can, and those kind of, benefit of the doubt kind of conversations. And then the next day you do it again, except that maybe half of it is the rah, 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 and then the second half is, but I love you, and we're gonna, and then the third day you do it where most of it is, the second part, which is, but I'm going to see you working out. I'm going to see it all coming together for you. And I totally trust. And this is something we came up with the last time we talked about this, was trusting our kids, trusting that our kids can make it work out. So it's really interesting to notice how many telepathic, or what the quality of our telepathic agreements are with everybody in our lives. And so you kind of do a little check and you go, oh, I think I can improve on this. And then you just work it out. Well, we can work on this more at another time, but I just wanted to share that little technique because we all have it. We all got stuff with family members or work people, or, you know, there's always somebody in our lives that's going to be a nemesis. And we used to work with a guy named Arnold Patton. He's a really brilliant, worked with spiritual principles. And he said, push my buttons. I want to know what they are. He was ready, bring it on. In other words, I don't want to be reactive. I would like to heal this part of me. And so it was just kind of cool.
I guess just that, you know, if it's a loved one who's really close to you, you know, like your child or your sibling or your parents, you know, it pushes you to work harder on yourself. You just have to, in order to love them the way you want.
Well, and you don't want
A
to
gift.
throw them away, and you can't. You really can't. I mean, some people do leave their family behind completely, but it's usually never left completely behind. And then you've got it in your heart, and you're struggling, and you're conflicted. So you really want to work. This is why we're born. This is why we're here, to heal. I mean, we gotta heal this stuff.
I have a friend that's going through a really tough time, and I've known her for probably over 10 years now, probably almost 20 years. And so she confides in me, and I think it has to do with going with the flow. You know, it's like I have to allow her to go through her own flow to learn her lesson, because she's not going to learn it by hearing it from somebody. She's going to have to, I mean, sometimes that's the way it has to go, you know. She's going to have to live it and learn through her own process, you know, what that lesson is. And I have to be willing to let that happen. And that's just, you know, like I've said what I have to say, and I've made my peace with that. But I know that she's never going to understand. She's just going to come to an understanding for herself of what her situation is, and she's going to learn it herself by going through the flow, going with the flow.
Well, you're trusting. You want to trust her. You want to trust her higher self to find her way, in a way, and that's that kind of letting go. Is kind of, there's the letting go.
Yeah.
Feeling like you need to affect her in any way. You're giving her your love, and you're sharing some concepts or ideas, maybe, but you know, you're throwing it out. Maybe it'll come back. Maybe she'll hear it in a month or two. You know, maybe it'll be there. You planted a seed, I guess.
Yes.
I have found that the more I think I know what someone should be doing, the more I block their growth, the more I block their own journey, because I try to take control of their journey.
Mhm.
What the hell do I know? I'm trying to find my own journey. And even if we, you know, do have wisdom from many years of living, hopefully some, it's our wisdom, and it's not necessarily one size fits all. And especially for certain periods of time, they're on a journey we really can't see. That's the thing. We think we can because we're their mother, we're their father, we're their whatever we are. And we think, well, we know them. Their journey is unique. And I've found when I pull back from trying to manipulate my son's journey, even if it's only in my head, he flows. I have blocked his flow with my expectations and desire for him to be a certain way. he's got to kind of fight and wrestle with that instead of being able to go with what's calling him. So it's always tough because as a mother, it's like, oh, he's going to get hurt. You know, he's going to hurt somebody. It's like, our parents, I'm sure, went through it too. You know? God knows what they went through.
It's true, but thanks. Yeah, no, I hear you about blocking his flow, you know. You have, so I think what we're all telling each other, ourselves included, is that trusting other people to their higher self to find their way, and we will be loving friends and we will do the best we can, friends and family members, but we'll, you know, we can't solve it for them. We can plant seeds, we can give, you know, support, and so not to take it all in, because I know it can make us sick, and that's the other thing. And I know sometimes we can point to certain conflicts in our lives that might have caused our own physical illness. So it's also about ourselves, not just about the person that we care about. It's about ourselves. We want to have it all balancing out.
And also, once you put an expectation on somebody, and let's say they fix it, and like a new expectation shows up about them that you have, and it's kind of exhausting to live with that level of wanting to control everything, because it's always something new is gonna come up.
It's the universe is made, and it's got a pattern, and it's just like, okay, I went through this one. Oh, there's another one, and it just keeps coming until you really get it, until you heal it. So I love it.